Faces, I can do faces. I mean, I can learn the face 6 months, a year down the road. Names from one minute to the next.
Like we're somewhere out like a grocery store, we might get away from each other, right? And then we meet back up, you know, I'm going down this hall, he's going there. Then periodically I'll say, no, he'll talk. And I walk up and I don't know who they are. When I'm first like, he's looking at me like, don't ask me their name, don't make me introduce you, because I don't remember their name.
Yeah.
He was nice, he wasn't on his voices, he was always nice and voices.
Yeah, I do faces.
And he's like, I had no idea what they were whatsoever. I stood there one night and he just talked to me, I said, almost 15 minutes.
Really?
And I was just all scared, because I'm trying to get us. And we left the shop on the inside, and he got around. And I said, no, I'm not talking about his name. I said, who was it?
I don't have a clue. Yeah, I do the same thing.
He's like,
And it's like funny, like if I see somebody like at the store and I'm with Melissa and they'll see me and I'm like, oh shit, I can't remember something out there with me. And then it's like, okay, hey, this is my fiance. They look at me like I'm supposed to know their names and I don't.
I know.
So they end up introducing themselves, you know. It's like, oh man.
That's what Ron does.
Man, how are you?
Hey, are you good? And he's like,
How are you doing?
I'm terrible,
Yeah, I'm horrible.
Or like somebody will come up to me and go, what's George doing? Because I know them. I look at them and I'm like, how are
You don't know their names.
I don't remember.
Terrible.
Like, do they have one or do they have two? Or, I have no idea.
Did that insurance thing? Did you see the insurance thing for was proposed to do? Neutral and some stuff. I estimated everything. You know what I mean?
Estimate of what?
Replacement cost. No, I looked up, I went on the plans and saw how much square footage each building was, the office, and I came up with $200 a square foot, so it's like $17-something million worth.
What was the old policy?
I think it was like 6 maybe.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen a policy either, but from what I gather, it's shit. It showed like 6, or maybe one of the estimates was 6, and I went $1 million above it, or close to $1 million above it.
All right, time is now 9:02. Let's go ahead and bring this meeting to order. We will begin with a moment of silence, followed by a prayer from Madam Vice Chair Emily.
Let us pray. Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, I come to you this morning. Thank you for this journey here. Thank you for the journey of everyone who is present here. I pray, Lord, that we get through those things that needs to be handled and needs to be resolved for us to move forward. I pray for the strength and healing of our elected official, Hermione Dickerson. I ask you, Lord, to continue to pray and bless the people that look over the residents here. And I ask you, Lord, to continue to pray and bless the residents here. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Of course, we all know about Mr. Hermione Dickerson suffering an illness there, so we'll move on from our swearing-in ceremony. We're scheduled that apparently for next month, and we'll move on to our delegation of Hand in Hand.
Where do you want us, right here?
You can stand up, please.
I'll do that. All of you should have received a booklet that looks like this.
Some of you have a lot of background on us already. Hand in Hand of Glenn is a 501c3. Ann Stembler is the president of the board. I'm Linda Hagee, I'm the treasurer. And we're here to talk to you about a project that we're working on at 4621 Altama. So in your booklet here, you will see a number of things, including a business plan. Looks like this. Background on all the board members and Carolyn Johnson, our new director. Looks like that. Floor plans of our tiny homes, 240 square feet each. Looks like this. We have both a normal one and an ADA accessible floor plan. And then a picture of our model tiny home that is on the property now. And a schematic of what the grounds will look like after we are all done with our project. Rather than have you go through the entire business plan, I have a little handout which I'm calling the Cliff Notes. Some of you are too young to know what Cliff Notes are. For those of us that were underachievers in our high school days, the Cliff Notes were used to skirt the task of having to actually read. I'm going to just walk over and, I'm just going to walk through. You didn't actually have to read the book. You could read the Cliff Notes. I may not have one for everybody. Here, I've got one. What? I need one. Thank you. I can make sure that we all get one afterwards. So the Cliff Notes. We're hand in hand of Glenn. On the second page, our mission, which is we're going to build 60 tiny homes to house the homeless of Glenn County. And each tiny home will be 240 square feet with a porch that's 12 by 6 feet. So the porch is in addition. The porch is a covered porch. You can see it in that picture. And a community center. And the community center will contain gardens. We'll teach life skills in the community center, computer skills, and technical skills. Those are sort of the, hi, how are you? Those are sort of the agenda of our community center, what we're planning to do there. Just a little aside, we have a lot of partners who have volunteered and come to us with the idea that they are willing to teach our classes. They're willing to come and bring their services to us, the hospital, community health, the college. Lots of partners in the community are volunteering to come to our site and be there for our residents. The community health services group has a new mobile unit, and they're going to be coming to our property and supplying us with medical services for our residents. The hospital has said that they will do an initial assessment of our residents as they come on to be residents, so that there is some record for the medical community of what that person might need, whether they might have an existing condition or need some other medical or mental help counseling. So just to say it, we have been blessed with a lot of community involvement, a lot of community volunteering to help with our residents. We're going to call it the Grove at Corral Commons. Some of the first donations we received One of them was a large donation from Pete Carell and his family. And we have just received a second donation from them. We haven't received it yet, but we are working on it, which will be a matching grant. And they will match funds that are over $10,000 that are given to Hand in Hand with Flint. So we are naming it in Pete's honor, the Grove at Carell Commons. The Grove came from a group of students at the college who were in a marketing class, and we went over and talked to them. They came over and visited the community, and they came up with the name of the Grove. If any of you have visited, the whole property is just filled with trees. It's just north of Michael's Deli on Altama. It's on that side of the street, the west side of Altama, and it has a park-like feel to the property. We've now put a fence all the way around it, and it will be a gated community when we're done. Right now, there's just a construction fence along Altama, but eventually there will be, do we have that? There'll be a cement block that you can see through. I can't remember what it's called. Breeze block. And then a gate that will be open during the day and accessible with a card at night. The next one is costs, just in big, bold letters. The land cost us $1,175,000. That was what we paid to the church. That's actually our closing cost for the land. The improvements were $245,000. We had to put on a new roof. We tore down the sanctuary because the roof was rotted. We couldn't afford to both heat and air condition that whole space. We didn't really need the space, so the sanctuary came down, and we're using the Sunday school area of the church. The community room is going to be our gathering room, and all the little Sunday school rooms are places where we will teach classes. We're going to teach cooking, exercise, nourishment, wellness, computer skills, technical skills. So the infrastructure is $500,000. That's all the underground stuff that nobody sees, but is really needed. Sewers, plumbing, electrical, anything that is hardwired going to the houses goes through the infrastructure, and that's being done right now. So our 18 tiny homes that are up are not hooked up. The toilets don't flush yet. So they are all there and ready to be hooked up, but we're doing the infrastructure even as we speak. That's going on now, supposed to be done at the end of November. Then the 60 tiny homes will cost us $2,100,000. That's $35,000 a piece. They are running between 30 and 35 as the price of lumber goes up and down, paint, hardy board. All of our materials have been variable in what it's cost us to buy them. So we have a variable cost there that's sort of fluctuating somewhat. The gardens and landscaping will be about $100,000 when we're done. We'll have to replant. We're trying to save every tree, but some of the trees with the infrastructure going in have been casualties of the build. But most of the big trees are still intact, and we have probably 10 of them, 12 of them?
Yeah,
More.
at least, yeah.
Our community center is needing new air conditioning, new wiring, paint, the roof, almost everything. We're lucky it's a cinder block building, so that allows us to have a good, strong foundation, but it needs a lot of TLC to sort of bring it up to code. In that community building, we have two separate buildings, Building 1 and Building 2. Building 1 we're going to do next year. This is confusing. Building 2 we're doing first. And it's being done right now. We will have a handicap bathroom and shower, full shower, room to teach cooking and wellness, and we're going to use one of our little cooking units that's in the tiny house so that we will be doing classes on the exact same unit that people actually have in their house. We have a sign-up center for medical and counseling needs, a place for our residents to come and sign up for that, and then we have a room, if a doctor or nurse needed to examine somebody, it's a private room. We have a great big gathering space with tables and chairs so that people can come in and have a meal collectively or have a class collectively. We also have a storage room next to it that allows those tables and chairs to be stored in case we want to use the big space for exercise classes or whatever. And we have an executive director's office, temporary until she moves into the other building. And the other building's somewhat the same. A lot of classrooms that will be a library, computer space, technical skills. That we're planning for next year.
So
We can,
you didn't mention the laundry facility.
oh, sorry, we have a laundry facility too, in building 2, which we're doing right now. And that laundry facility has,
3 commercial washers and 3 commercial dryers.
and it's gonna be card operated, so that as people do work around the property, like mowing the lawn or cleaning up the common
We'll
room.
have a mandatory community service hours, probably 2 a week. And anything on top of that, they'll get credit on their card.
So the credit can go to doing the laundry, or we're going to have a pantry where they can get bulk items that might be too much to carry back from the grocery, like paper goods, canned goods, either heavy things or bulky things. We'll carry in the pantry and they can buy them there. I think that's all on that. So the community center is being redone, and that's gonna cost us about $300,000. So all in, we put in new air conditioning and heating and new wiring, new ceiling tiles, paint, floorboards, flooring. So that's all $300,000. And that's for both buildings. So our total amount is $4,420,000. You'll see down there, and we have put in a contingency for $270,000. We've already spent some of that. We were told by the city that we need to put in a sidewalk along Altama, although it doesn't really tie into anything else, but it's a requirement, so that will be extra. All told, $4,690,000, almost $4,700,000. Those are just big block numbers. There's lots more detail on page 21 in the book. Ongoing costs. Personnel, and that includes anybody that we're hiring to do bookkeeping or grant writing or any of our hourly wage people, consultants, etc. $19,000 a month. Insurance, $10,000 a month. Maintenance, about $10,000 a month. Program coordination, $2,000 a month. Utilities, $7,696. That's fairly exact, but I worked through it on the web with the square footage for what they give as the cost of our utilities. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be on the money. So our monthly expense is $48,696. If you put in our depreciation of $6,250, it brings us to a monthly total of $54,946. That is about $909 per unit with utilities. I think it's $909.16 actually, but with utilities, that's what our costs will be. To date, and this is just for construction, we've raised $3.5 million. We have $815,000 in pledges that are coming in between now and next June, for a total of $4.3 million. We need $289,000. We're open for suggestions, but we're working hard on it, and we feel confident that this will come in for us. And that brings us to the $4.6 million. So the end of our story is we have enough to complete the construction. We feel confident that we will have enough to do that. But we hope that this community becomes a private-public partnership. And in that, we are asking for help on our ongoing expenses. If you turn to page 23 of your business plan that's in your folder, you'll see that we have looked at the idea, as we've talked, of BHA supplying a portion of our revenue. So we were figuring of the 60 residents that we would be able to count on them on average for a third of their income, and we figured that would be about 580, and 225, and that would give us 13,500 a month. That's the first line. The second line is what we figured BHA would be able to supply, and the total revenue of those two numbers together would be about $805 a month per unit. And then we are asking for a utility allowance of $130 a month, which would bring us to revenues of $56,100. So we are hoping that we could get project-based vouchers for our units. And we've talked to Angela and Jamie a number of times about how that might work. And we're here to ask for your help. Does anybody have questions?
Linda,
Yes?
you can add back $6,250 to your bottom line because depreciation is not a cash expense. And you've got it listed as a cash expense.
I know it's not, but it is a real situation for us in that we used a 40-year depreciation, but we know that we are going to have to plan at some point
Or replacement.
that we have to replace those.
Right. And I understand that, and that would be in your capital fundraising, your capital program, but not in your monthly operating, because it's not going to require monthly cash expenditure. But in any event, just so you know.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there other questions I can answer?
You must be really good. There's no
I kind
question.
of doubt that. It might be the morning, or
You reckon?
when I put them to sleep, or.
It was a very good presentation. I'm waiting for the open house to go see the whole thing when it's
we'd like to take you over there to see things, and we will do it just, anytime you guys are available. We're ready to be here in the morning. You can leave cars here and we drive you over. Literally any time, but, you know, maybe at the next meeting or.
The community center is scheduled to be finished in 2 or 3 weeks. So if you would rather see it, the building 2, building 1, of course, we haven't started yet. But if you want to wait and see that in its completion, we're happy for that. Or Linda has wonderful
Little
photos that we
pictures,
took
you know, about
yesterday.
tiny homes, we have tiny pictures. And I won't tell you why.
Do you already have a list of prospective tenants?
I'm gonna have to have you guys share, because I just want that many. I'm sorry,
Do you already have a list of potential tenants?
we have been talking to, we're going to use the coordinated entry system. Obviously, we would go through VHA as well, but we would be getting names from both Jeff and Angela and Jamie of potential people that might go in there. We are reserving the right to also screen those people as they come in. You'll see in there both pictures of the community center and pictures of the little tiny house. We have 10 of them fully furnished with everything in, and the community center is more a work in progress.
Y'all need to improve your diversity. I noticed an awful lot of Hunter McClain people affiliated with the organization.
Just one. Just Chris Jordan.
That was just a shot at me.
Yeah.
That was a personal attack.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's all right, that's okay.
I missed it.
No,
That's okay, Ben.
You were
Yeah, no, I
nearby.
felt it.
Yeah.
Wasn't too bad.
All the units are furnished, right?
They're all furnished, yes. So initially, when someone would move in, they already have all their, you know, their kitchen utensils, and they have a microwave and a little toaster oven and a 2-burner stove and a little refrigerator and sink, and all their knives, forks, spoons, plates, fry pans. Their linens are in there, all their, all the things that they would need, you know, to just move in, really.
So thus far, 6 to 8 is completed?
Sorry?
6 to 8 is completed as of now?
Actually, we have 18, all up, 18 houses are up, but only 10 of them have the furnishings moved in. So we're gonna be moving in the others, as soon as we can. We are getting donations from churches. We've had lots of church groups. We've had the hospital over there. Many people are volunteering, like a Saturday, and the volunteers come over and they help us move things into the tiny houses, and it's really been a community project.
I passed by it yesterday, looking at the got up to speed, and it's looking pretty good.
Thank you. Questions?
Is that all the questions that we have for, additional questions? What was the staff recommendation for the project-based voucher policy or implementation?
We would recommend that we work with them to offer, or to do the project stuff there.
And in working with the coordinated entry program, I believe that's Jeff Clark.
Yes.
How would that work out with?
Well, we would still have to, run the people through our waiting list to make sure all of our screenings are done. But we would still be working the waiting list on our end.
They'd have to coordinate that, but I think
Yeah.
both screenings need to, you know,
Within the project-based voucher program and just a little unfamiliar with it. How does that work with, are those different than our regular HCV vouchers?
No,
So it would be those same,
yes,
basically coming from that same group.
yes,
But with a project-based voucher, we're putting the vouchers with the property
Yes.
particularly.
yes,
And in this instance, we're saying we're gonna put, according to what I see here, that we're looking at all 60 units, we'll assign 60 vouchers to them.
yes.
Do we have 60 vouchers available that are currently unused?
Yes.
Okay. And I assume those are for, again, these would be considered, the tiny home would be considered a one bedroom?
Mm-hmm. The bedroom has a closet, a door, and a window.
Have we used, project-based vouchers or anything else prior to this? Cause I'm not familiar with it. What else would you use
Yes.
project-based vouchers for?
We have, do you remember the numbers,
26 where we committed to, but only 8 are leased up.
Yeah, on the, tax credit property that's over by Big Lots by the fairgrounds.
Okay. Is that the same way you run, Norwich Commons?
No.
What's the difference? Why the difference?
Not affiliated.
Yeah, they're not affiliated.
Norwich Commons?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we get Perry Park Place, will they be project-based vouchers or?
Nope. Separate project.
You're not gonna be a part of it?
Nope.
We share bill gross, but that's it. He's our developer. It's not our builder, he's just our developer, and, he subcontracts out all the work. And he's the same developer that we did Norwich. But we're not affiliated with them.
How do you go by selecting your tenants?
I'm sorry?
How do you go by selecting your tenants?
So we're using the coordinated entry system, which is a nationwide system that tracks homeless people as they go through the system. So if they were at Gateway or the Well or the hospital's emergency room or the court system, they're entered into the coordinated entry system.
So basically, it's the people in this region, right?
Yes. Oh, you mean who would be our residents?
Yes.
Yes, people in our community. We're very strong on that.
No affiliation with housing or,
We're just right now, we're just a fully private
Right.
organization.
So if a homeless person transitioned to Boysborough, Georgia, they would have to go through that
Coordinated entry system.
How long does that process take?
You mean to enter someone into that system?
Uh-huh.
I've
Get them
heard that it's
qualified.
extensive.
About an hour.
It's an hour-long interview.
And
Okay.
it ranks them based
We're,
on the
we're,
need.
we're trying to, learn it on our own so that we can enter people in. Carolyn is meeting with Jeff so that we can, be on a point of contact because we know we're probably gonna see a lot of homeless people coming to talk to us. And so we wanna be ready to make sure that they are entered into the system. Then the system sort of scans them, figures out who they are, does background checks,
right?
and, obviously they would have to go through, BHA as well.
What's
But
the
we'd like
qualification?
to make it easy.
What are your qualifications for your screening? What are you looking for? The qualifications for on your screening as a background check?
We're
Tell us the
just,
background
no
check.
violence. We wanna make sure no violence, no domestic violence, no violence at all. We don't want a history of any violence. We have to think about the fact that we've got a community and we wanna make sure that people are safe. But aside from that, not too many restrictions.
Commissioner Bauer.
Could folks in housing, currently in housing, that meet the criteria, otherwise meet the criteria, because they wouldn't be homeless, could they be looked at being able to move into one of the units under this project-based voucher?
That's not how we've seen it. Our idea is that our residents would have been previously experiencing homelessness. That is.
That's through Gateway and other facilities we have here, like Gateway.
Well, they might have been treated at Gateway, they might have gone into Gateway for a while, but they really have to be on the street. They have to be people who are currently not without shelter.
Based on like a well and places like that.
Correct. This is really for homeless. So it's a slightly different population than low income, or these are people who are out under the bridges and maybe taking residence in a hotel for a while, but, you know, one of those that are out on the highway.
Because of the pandemic, do y'all have any PPE equipment there?
I don't know that we've really addressed that
We
yet.
haven't gotten any yet because we don't have any residents yet, but there will be.
We will definitely need that, yeah.
Any other questions for the delegation? Hand in hand? Yes, sir.
How soon will you start?
We're hoping January. The whole project is really, right now, tied up to this infrastructure crew getting done with the sewers, electrical, and plumbing. They're putting it all around, we're sort of having a street through the property. If you look at the schematic, you'll see that we have sort of a road that goes all the way around the community center, and the infrastructure is mostly under that road. So we have to hook each one of the tiny houses up to the plumbing, up to the water, up to the electrical. And we have all of them built so that that can happen, but it needs to happen before we can move anybody in. We're hoping for January. That's where we are now. We were at one point hoping for year end, but we've sort of slipped a little due to COVID and lack of labor and all sorts of supply chain issues with
And we'll have to get-
materials.
So what's the
And since the
total?
whole property won't be finished, we'll have to figure out a safe way to contain the homes that are finished. And then, we'll have to get the CO from the city, for our occupancy before, of course, anybody could move in. So, but that's our dream, in January.
What's the total of units?
60.
That's-
60. We have, right now, we have 18 built. They're starting in on the next 6. They do them in groups of 6, just because the cement truck pours 6 slabs at a time. So we have 6 of them going up at once. We've done 18. We're gonna do the next 6, and we're hoping to have another 6 done by year end, but that might be a pipe dream. We'll at least have 24. But it would be great if we could have 30 of them done by year end. That'd be half of it. But yeah, we have 18 currently.
18.
And we'd love to have this group come in and see the property and walk through the homes in the community center. Just give us the word through Angela and we'll make it happen.
Okay, great. Any other further questions for delegation of hand in hand?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we
Angela?
vacate?
It's up to you guys. You're welcome to stay the rest of the meeting.
Well, if y'all have more questions later, Angela has our contact information and we'll be glad to answer in any way, you know, and get back to you. But do take advantage of coming to visit us. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
I'll be in touch.
Good, good.
Next, we have a delegation from the Credit Kings University.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for inviting me here or putting me on your agenda. My name is LaTanya Roberts, and we have an organization called the Credit Kings University, where we teach the importance of credit, budgeting, savings, and pretty much economic empowerment. And we would like to partner with the Brunswick Housing Authority to be able to provide these resources for the housing residents. I have a presentation here. I believe I was able to send out the presentation to the board members. First, I want to say again, thank you for having me. And the introduction is we are boosting our economy and surviving the storm by increasing awareness of credit and by providing resources to housing residents in our communities. The objective of this proposal is to provide credit education and life skills to housing residents and or families to have economic readiness and empowerment in our community. The proposal includes a 3-week workshop and training. In this training, we will educate all housing participants on the importance of credit, savings, and budgeting. In addition, our organization intent is to educate housing residents on the importance of credit and how to manage their finances and prepare them for home ownership. And on the next slide, we actually have a project proposal. And the project proposal is projected at the credit training workshop provides knowledge of effectiveness and credit readiness and efficiency in understanding credit. The participants will learn budgeting, savings, and understanding credit. At the program conclusion, the participants will have a clear understanding on the importance of credit, education, and to properly manage their finances. And the project cost that we're asking is $3,000. That's $100 per student. At 30 students, we're prepared to teach. The labor is $1,200. Material curriculum is $900. The certification at the end of every course, we will have a certification where when you're doing something, you want to feel empowered. And a lot of times with that certification, it gives them an empowerment, and also it gives them a better quality of life, knowing that they've achieved something in their life. And we'll also have, of course, refreshments. That's at $200, and of course the graduation. We'll be able to prepare them for graduation with their certifications, as well as be able to provide people to come in, media, take pictures, just to kind of get it out there. So in week 1, the introduction of staff, we will also introduce the course material, which are life skills, again, budgeting, checking, and how to manage your checking accounts and saving accounts. And just to let you guys know, the Credit Kings University has partnered with a young lady that has over 20 plus banking and financing years of financing. So we actually prepared to bring her in to also teach about checking accounts and savings accounts. Excuse me. In week 2, we will talk about the importance in understanding credit, the power of credit, how to maintain a good credit score. Also have refreshments, also in entrepreneurship, also to teach them if anyone desires to pretty much have skills to go out and if they wanna, have their own business one day. And the availability, our staff, we're actually prepared to teach. I know a lot of the residents may have a 9 to 5, so we're prepared to teach towards the end evenings, maybe between 6 and 8, just depending on the availability. The hours of sessions are dependent upon availability. The Credit Kings University is prepared to teach the evenings. The students also will receive course materials and snacks will be provided. And in a conclusion, like I said before, in week 3, we will pretty much have a banquet or like a graduation ceremony. That way, if they would like to invite their families to come and just pretty much share in their achievement, share in their successes in this workshop, and also have a question and answer, and also be able to have media present if the Brunswick Housing Authority allows, and that way it can bring awareness to the organization. And so in the conclusion, the students will have knowledge in, of course, bank checking and savings accounts, budgeting, and credit education. And that concludes the presentation, and I just want to open up the floor for any questions at this time.
What age are these students?
The age?
Yeah.
So the age of students, we actually have a youth edition as well, but the adults that we're inquiring about are the adults that, of course, the 21 years and older, to be able to register at the time. We do have a youth version, which is from 12 to 17.
12 to 17.
Mm-hmm.
You have any literature, paperwork, illustrations on your plans, anything?
Yes, I do. Do you need me to
Yeah.
have some? Absolutely. This is just a sample of one of the curriculums that we'll be able to provide. And if you want to pass it around, you're welcome to do so.
I have a 2-part question.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been doing this and how many graduates have you had?
So this is our 4th year in the organization, and we have, last year we had about 15 graduations. The year before we had 10. The year before, like when we first started in 2018, we only had about 7 at the time because we just got out. So the next year, so that was 7 plus 15 plus 20, so roughly about 42 graduates so far.
Where you located?
So right now, our office is downtown at Gloucester Street, 501 Gloucester Street in room 111.
Now, 111. So basically, do you really think that people get enough, if they've never dated before or starting out, like the 12 to 17-year-olds, do you think 3 weeks is enough time for them to get it? Or can they roll over and have the class again if they didn't get it all comprehended in 3 weeks? Because 3 weeks is kind of fast.
Yes, ma'am, that's a great question. So that will be something that we're prepared to actually offer, like a continuing education if they want to, take a second course. Maybe we can do a part 2. That's a great question.
So all those 15 graduates, did they get it like a test of how they did so that you will know that they gain the knowledge and understanding of what to do when they go out on their own?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are they highlighted anywhere? Are their pictures highlighted anywhere?
So we have a website that's going, it's on Facebook. It's the Credit Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be able to go in there, and actually it has a lot of credit education content as well as pictures where we've, had media exposure.
Okay.
So, and that's one of the things that I'm working on now is to being able to get more, because a lot of people don't know that we're here.
Oh, I need your business card.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll get you on my show.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Will you be teaching them at this place, at 501 Gloucester? Is that where the classroom is at?
Well, I wanted to see if there was an opportunity to teach in the house, if there's any facilities that you guys can offer. If not, we'll be prepared to find a facility somewhere in maybe the Kaufman Park area or Selden. We generally teach at Selden Park in the room behind the gym.
When I first met, and we discussed this, I suggested that we have it on site because over the years, you don't know it because you weren't here, but this is something that has been an objective or goal of mine since I've been on this board, to facilitate cash management and bank reconciliations and just the opportunity to, for our residents to gain control of their financial life. And when I heard the presentation of the credit kings, I mean, you know, I always wanted to do it in-house, and I had volunteered to help and go in and teach some of the courses. But if these folks are gonna do it, and for $100 per student or resident, it's just a fantastic opportunity, and I think that we should do it on our property to facilitate getting the people there. One of the things that has held us back over time is not being able to get the participation and to stimulate the interest. And so my question was, how are you going to drive the people to the classes? And you can explain that if
Yes, thank you, excellent question. So we're prepared to actually go out to different, the housing communities, and we'll have a registration form. We'll pique their interest by going door to door if we have to. Also provide newsletters, if it's okay with you guys, to present to them or send, I don't know how you guys communicate with your residents, but be able to provide newsletters, letting them know, hey, we're here. This will be something that will be very beneficial to you and your whole entire household. I don't know about you, but when it comes to being able to take control of your finances, you have less stress in your household. You have less just things that are going on sometimes. When you have a better control of your finances, it brings about an empowerment, and it makes you want to pay your bills on time. It makes you want to, you don't complain, you don't mope, because you have that financial understanding that, okay, well, I can do this. I can take control of my finances. So we're prepared to go out to the different housing residents and present it or pique their interest, have our registration forms, and if they're interested, have them sign up, and then that will pretty much tell us how much or how many students we can get at one time.
And you know, we have a program to try to transition people from housing to home ownership and building equity. And the impediment to that was we couldn't get people through the credit approval process. And so, you know, I've been poor and I've been not poor. Being poor is a whole lot harder. And so to be able to get control and to minimize the bad check charges, the phone calls that you don't want to take, and all those issues, I just think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that should have been part of the self-sufficient program, I agree. I like the program, I like what it does. We will have to vote on it. But this will be something that we will try to start out with to see how it goes. And if you like it, so it will be like a renewing contract.
Yes,
you know,
ma'am.
because I don't want to give you a long term.
Right, yes,
You know,
so
like that,
definitely we would
period.
try
Yeah.
a trial, and then maybe if we can do quarterly or, you know, depending on the availability.
5 years.
No.
Now, we'll have to say that to transition this into a home ownership program, it does have to be HUD approved credit counseling. So have you worked on that process?
I'm actually in the process of being one of the counselors with HUD.
Okay.
Yes.
Maintain out good participation, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
So
That's the start.
Yes, sir, and of course, if you guys will have us, so, that too.
So how long will it take to do the HUD approve?
So, I don't have that, I have that information, I can look and then get back to you and let you know.
So we can't do, partner until she gets that HUD approval?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
I'm
well,
saying-
that's what I'm asking, yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
No, that's not,
Okay,
not gonna be a restriction.
Okay.
And I don't know, but I'm guessing it's, under 6 months. And we're not gonna, they're not gonna have graduates inside of the time frame it would take for, to gain the HUD, approval, so, that can all be coordinated.
do you have graduation every 3 weeks?
No, no, ma'am, actually, the graduation, I was doing it twice a year.
Okay.
So, but if you guys need more, then we can definitely
Okay.
accommodate.
Oh, do it the way,
Yes.
you know, like spring and winter, how the high school has early graduation and then we
Yes,
have every.
and that's what we did, the other version is the youth, Credit King Youth Edition. We would normally do it in the summertime, like when they're out of school, and they will come in the mornings, and we would teach them budget and savings, even how to write a check. And they felt so empowered, because it was like, you know, of course, these curriculums are not taught in our schools, so something that we're gonna need throughout life, you know?
And they're available if the demand is there, to have separate sessions in the different properties, if
Yeah.
there's enough people. And so, their mobility would facilitate increased participation, would be my hope.
Yeah. And another, social media, we have a newsletter that's supposed to come out every quarter and, a website. And I think if the other residents will see the ones who went through the program, that will influence them to do it like a little write-up or whatever like that,
Yes.
you know, yeah.
Awesome.
Do we have a newsletter coming out yet? Cause I wanted to see the pictures from the, I'm off, I'm sorry, I'll wait. But anyway, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any further questions for Ms. Roberts? Okay, so I'll ask mine, and I guess it's more directed towards staff. Staff, what will be your have you guys got a recommendation for her program at this point?
This is the first we're seeing her program. We haven't looked at it, I haven't talked to staff, but, I mean, I don't see any.
This is just a presentation today, not for a vote.
Right. I understand we're not voting. Within our family self-sufficiency program, and I'm happy you did mention that, do we not include a credit counseling portion within the program itself?
Family self-sufficiency is geared towards what the resident who is on the program needs. So if that's what they need, then it's in there. If their goals are to have a college degree in this area, or to buy a house, or whatever, they make their own goals.
They make their own goals.
Yes.
So
And
there's
family
no-
self-sufficiency is just on Section 8 program, it's not public housing.
It's not public housing.
Mm,
And this will be specifically for public housing.
excellent.
Well, I don't, Ms. Roberts can speak, I wouldn't think that they would want to limit it, they'd want to get as many people as possible would be my guess. So Section 8 as well, but the emphasis would be public housing.
Emphasis would be public housing.
Public housing.
Great program.
Okay, all the rest of mine were answered, so if we have no other questions for Credit Kings University and Ms. Roberts, any more questions there, Commissioners?
And the only follow-up would be to ask for a spot on the agenda next month to vote to consider the program for approval. And go ahead and do the research, investigation, investment program, and whatever y'all need to do to get informed to the point of being able to cast an informed vote.
How soon will you be doing your, registration?
So once, prayerfully, there's an approval, I can start reaching out to the residents and seeing if, try to get participants.
That way you can gauge it and see the participation in the
Right, so not, in
That would
other
make it-
words, immediately,
meeting.
yes.
To my understanding, don't y'all already have a residents meeting? Is she able to go to that and see if she can get any names there?
Yeah, I'll, connect you with our resident.
Thank you so much. And if there's no more questions, thank you again for having me. I appreciate you all.
You have a
Yeah.
business card?
Yes, I do.
Right.
She wouldn't give me one.
What did you ask?
I did.
Oh, maybe.
My other organizer gave him mine. Thank you.
If you guys don't mind, I need to do a little bit of housekeeping. I know that the officer did show up and was not. I meant to put it at the beginning, but of course she wasn't at the beginning when we started. But if the board doesn't mind, can we go ahead and get the crime report so officers
Yes.
can have an opportunity to
Yes.
so, Officer Wright is correct. Officer Wright, will you provide us with our crime report, please?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry I was late, y'all. Clocking in at 9, so I ain't gonna be here exactly at 9. But I made it. Miss Page didn't know exactly what was needed, so she just printed basically August 1st of this year to October 10th. She also just printed the number of calls for each community or area and how many reports was taken. All calls do not get reports. Most of them, if an officer make a traffic stop in front of the unit, they just automatically get that unit, so it goes to the call. Sometimes it be property checks, so all of them are not just emergency calls. For Abbott Andrews, we had a total of 49 calls, but only 3 incident reports. Brooklyn Homes Annex, 9 calls, 1 incident report. Brooklyn Homes North, 91 calls total, 12 incident reports. Brooklyn Homes South, 20 calls and 4 incident reports. Glenvilla had 99 calls, only 11 incident reports was taken. Hopkins Homes Annex was 8 calls, 1 report was taken. Hopkins Homes, 26, 9 reports was taken. Mercer, 26 as well, 9 reports was taken. McIntyre Court had 100 calls, 15 reports was taken. Whispering Oaks is more toward patrol, so that won't fall under me, but they did have 35 calls and only 4 reports was taken. So I wasn't sure exactly what is.
Well, compared to what we do at the NPA meetings, when the Chief Jones comes, he tells us exactly what the incident was and in what community it happened. So that's what I was looking for. So you know where you said you had 49 calls but only 3 incidents. What type of incidents were they?
Okay, see, that's what we wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I was trying to answer strictly exactly
Yeah.
what was needed.
Mhm.
But I did, just for the month of September, take down each community and all the calls and which one has reports, so I can go through that. For Glenvilla, this is just for the month of September. They had 33 calls, but one was like for a fall, which was transferred to squad. For fraud, theft, and most of them was neighborhood patrols, and we do have 1 juvenile problem call. Out of those, we had 7 reports from Glenvilla. Is that,
Yeah.
I know next time, let me know
Yes,
y'all.
that's what we're looking for. How many calls and how many were actually came out to be incidents, and what were the incidents particular in each community?
Okay,
Yes.
Can we get copies of them?
that would
I
be
don't-
up to Ms. Strickland.
Yeah, I don't think we should give out reports.
Cause I blacked
with-
them out.
Yeah, with
Okay.
the resident addresses and names on them, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a summary and summary.
Yeah.
This is something.
Good chance it'd be violating the law.
Yeah.
Yeah. For Hopkins Homes was a total of 14 for the month of September. We have 4 problem with persons calls. We had 2 domestic calls, 1 trespassing, and out of those, we had 8 reports that was taken, and one of them actually was an arrest for an attempt to locate a wanted individual. And that was Hopkins Homes. For Abbott Andrew was a total of 16. Only 2 reports was taken, and that was for an accident that occurred and also domestic. In that report, if an officer called out for like Tillman and M Street, they'll automatically zone that to Abbott Andrews, and it may not have nothing to do with that community, which it do list for drugs, so they did deal with somebody close to Abbott Andrews, but it had nothing to do with Abbott. Brooklyn Home Annex had only 4 calls. It was only 1 report taken, and that was for an assault. Brooklyn North had 34 calls. Only 5 reports was taken, and that was for damage to property, 2 domestics, 1 juvenile problem, and also a problem person. And most of those calls were dealing with the same unit. Brooklyn South only had 4, and no reports was taken. They just had 2 problem with person, but they just basically separated the individuals. Mercer Alabama was 8, has 8 calls, and 6 of them was reports. There was 3 problem with person, a welfare check, a burglary, and damage to property.
I did a welfare check. The person was all right?
Yes, ma'am. I took that one. Yes, ma'am. She was fine. She just wanted to get away from her boyfriend, so she went to Jacksonville for a few.
Okay.
I just let him know she's fine. I don't tell where she's at or anything, but she's fine.
Good. She didn't tell anybody.
No, ma'am. She just left.
That's good.
Max Court had 35 calls, and out of those 35 calls was 4 reports that was taken. 1 was for a domestic, 1 was for a sex offense, an assault, and the other was damage to property. And that was just for the month of September. Now, are y'all look for like monthly, like the next meeting, I just do October?
Yes.
But should we have a separate NPA meeting?
No.
Okay, because,
I've got a question, Ms. Officer, right?
I mean, because
Let's
we
say
wanna
you're zoned
do the
at Abbott, right? You said like anything near Abbott, it'll show up on Abbott report if it happened to block down the street. Is it like that in everywhere? So there's potential where, like at Hopkins Homes, where you've had so many reports, but it could be like 2 blocks down. Okay. And there's no way that we can, because that's so unfair to me.
Yeah, it just show up on the
You know
call
what I mean? Where
as the street name.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just don't worry about it, but to let y'all know, yes, they
Yeah.
just zoned it to that one area.
Just doesn't seem fair.
No, because it makes it look like that
Yeah,
area
it's all
has
happening with
issues,
us.
and it has nothing to do with that conflict.
Exactly.
So now I go for next time.
Thank you, Officer Wright.
Any further questions for Officer Wright?
No, but now, we can have your conversation.
You were saying, Ms. Strickland, about a separate meeting?
never mind.
No.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Officer Wright.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Good evening, hon.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I have to.
Right.
Moving on to old business. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of our regular meeting held on September 9,
Chairman.
Should be for 2021.
Point of order, before we go to minutes, we have this from envelope from Pastor Brown. Is this something that I missed on the agenda? Or?
No, this is the information that was asked for at the last meeting. This is what she provided. The 990 is not here. I reached out to her again through email asking about the 990, and I still have not received it.
And I was going to say this is not what was requested, because
This
there's
is her
also,
answer to what was.
yeah, there's also a request for a detailed breakdown on some of the expense categories. And once again, what we got is a summary.
Right.
And so I wanted to make sure that you know that we don't have yet what's requested.
I'll reach back out again today and ask her.
Okay, thank you. Pardon me, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to get that out of the way.
Going back to the minutes, has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our previous board?
I move that we approve the minutes as drafted and presented by staff.
I second that motion.
It's been a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the regular minutes of our regular meeting held on September 9, 2021, seconded by Madam Vice Chair Pamela Bailey. Do we have any further discussion?
Whoever takes minutes, just make sure you don't put 2020. That is my birthday.
No discussion, no further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. That passes unanimously. Moving on, approval of the September financial reports. Ms. Dyer, do you have any comments you'd like to give us on the financial
Yeah,
report?
I do.
Before we
Y'all have
begin?
to, if my voice is shaking, it's only because it's 30 degrees back here. I just wanted to point out one thing I've been saying for the past few months, that our expenses have been below budget, and they are. But also I was looking this month, and particularly in public housing, our actual revenue is down. Rental revenue and other rental income, those are down. That is a moving target. It's hard to budget that because you don't know what people's circumstances are going to be in the coming year, but that is down. The other thing that is down is operating subsidy, and that is me. When I did the budget for this year, I based it on prior history and also looking forward, but I neglected one thing. In the past, we had an energy performance contract loan, and we did some improvements in the properties that are supposed to make them more energy efficient. And we took out a loan on that, and the loan is now paid off. But during the years we had the loan, we received extra operating subsidy as part of the contract to offset the loan costs. So the loan is now paid off. The extra operating subsidy is not coming in. It doesn't affect any of the expenses on this income statement because it's a balance sheet item. It's a loan. I mean, there's a little bit of interest expense, but not very much. But the revenue is down because that extra portion we're receiving is gone. But I just did not reflect it in the budget because I didn't realize that we were at the end. I just wanted to point that out. But other than that.
From a cash standpoint, it's net zero effect.
Right.
Any further questions about the financial report?
Move that we approve the financial report as submitted by staff.
a second?
No,
I second that motion.
that's it.
Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore, to approve the financial reports, as submitted by staff, seconded by Madam Vice Chair Bailey. Do we have any further discussion?
Yes. How are we doing on the past due and DCA program for working with our residents to pay off the delinquent accounts, and can you give us an update on that, please?
I can tell you what the tenant accounts receivable balance is still roughly the same as it was a few months ago. I don't know, I'd have to ask Jamie. I mean, you'd have to ask Jamie. Okay, yeah, okay, good.
So we've had a few, and I say a few by less than 10, who have actually gone in and paid off their complete balances and got them back to normal. The AMP managers are constantly notifying and reaching out to the folks, the residents that still have not signed up that have a balance, and either their phones aren't connected at the moment, or you can hear them inside but they don't answer the door, so they are actively still trying to reach out for them. There are only, let's see here, for AMP 1, there's one unit that's actually under abandonment warrant right now. They just got up and left. They haven't had any new people sign up for it. On AMP 2, we have another unit that's under their third warrant for failure to make any kind of arrangements whatsoever. And on AMP 3, the court has advised 5 units to pay their balances in full, and they have had 5 other units that still make no effort to comply, but all of the other ones have made payments or have payment arrangement agreements with the actual properties and have been complying and making their payments on time. So there's a little bit of a dent. You still have some that are hesitant and not really kind of trying to meet us halfway, but they're still avidly working on.
But the main thing, we have that option out there for them.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
Yes,
That's not,
So you can't control what they do.
that's correct.
If the option is there. That's,
Yes, sir.
that's what our purpose was, to get the option out
Yep.
there. I'm satisfied with that.
Representative Fudge came out recently with the thing from HUD saying that, use different strategies
Yes.
of getting people to, because what she's looking at is trying to cut down on eviction
Sure.
and keeping them in. And one of the things she said was, do y'all have a listing of resources like St. Francis or coastal area where
All
you can
of
refer
them.
them in
Yes,
order to
ma'am.
pay their bills?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, every AMP manager has a list of all the community resources that are available to the residents if they are still struggling or find themselves falling short. They just have to say, okay, here's the list, you just have to call, we can't contact them for you,
Yeah.
but most definitely, here's all the places in town that are willing to help you. So it just takes the resident reaching out, and some of them do, but there's also a good handful that
And
don't
they all
either.
have been
They're-
notified, right?
Yes, the question that they either get asked is, where can I go to try to get some assistance? And they're provided the list of folks that will help. And then the other one is how long until you kick me out? How much longer do I have till you kick me out? So that's the, doesn't seem to be a happy medium in the middle.
Right.
It's either, it's a black or white area, unfortunately.
Coastal area just came out with some relief, to sign up now for November,
Yes.
and then it's for 65, 62 and up, I believe.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
then in December, it's for everybody.
Yes, yep,
Mhm.
I saw that too.
Okay. Thank you.
Of the residents who, you said 10 people had either paid off their bill or somehow got the money through DCA, how many went through the program that DCA is offering?
We.
The lawyer assisted
One,
qualifications for,
5.
5?
Good.
And how many applied total? 5 got approved, how many?
I don't have the total of how many actually applied, cause some
Okay.
people have applied for it, but they haven't been approved, and
Right.
that's because they either haven't, turned in certain information, or there are pieces of their information that don't match or have not been, verifiable. So that number I don't have, but I'll get it for you.
Well, that's okay. I was just curious because, at the start of the program, it was speculated that it would be difficult, for some of the folks, and so I'm glad to see that at least 5 people have qualified. And,
Yeah.
so that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the turnaround time when they go through DCA, anything?
From what I've noticed, it kind of varies. There's some folks that, again, it's, you either have, all your stuff together and it makes it really, really easy when it's organized. But when you don't, and they're asking for info that you don't have, or they don't follow up and bring it back, that obviously lags that. So it can be as early as, I know, there's a couple people, that I talked to one of our AMP managers that had been trying since it first came available, and for whatever reason, just got some assistance or some feedback that they were approved like 2 weeks ago. So there seems to be a significant lag, but at least it's happening, so I'll take it happening
You
with a
said
little bit
5
of
cases, the court had to intervene?
Yes.
Okay,
So
what was that all about?
that's either somebody who we've reached out, these resources have been available, and we've tried to contact to make payment arrangement agreements and so forth, and they either haven't responded, haven't been able to communicate with us, or made an effort to respond, whether it was a notice, knocking on doors. So when you don't pay over a certain amount of time, it gets to the point where they respond with a warrant. Yeah.
So I have one last question.
Yeah.
So, if someone comes to you and they said they went through this program, they can stay in their place until you find out whether the process, if they did it or not, or it's been completed. How does that work?
So from my understanding, if they've applied for it, but they haven't been, they have to meet with the folks over, yes, DCA, sorry, brain meltdown for a moment. They get them into this program, signed up and everything, and they get feedback. So during that time frame that they're waiting to hear something back, there is a lag, almost like a pause, but at some point, if they're not approved or they're not submitting documentation back or whatnot, then you have to move forward. You either have to, like I said, if that doesn't work out, our AMP manager always like, come in and see me, we'll figure out something, will work out. We're not in the business of evicting people, we wanna keep them in their homes, so. But it does, we wanna do everything we can to help them, but they have to meet us halfway, even a quarter of the way. You just gotta come and say, hey, look, I can't figure it out, help me, whatever I gotta do, tell me what it is, and, but we still have some folks that we're struggling to
Then you give
get
them a
them
time
to
period
communicate.
to respond.
That's a warrant.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The emergency rental assistance program and those funds that I believe they've already been dispersed to like state levels. Have we been approved to get any of those, or did we approach any of those funds or anything like that to help us?
That's what she's talking about.
Through DCA.
Yeah.
That's through the DCI?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's that application process, once they get approved and they can start getting some assistance.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Any further questions about the financial report? I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, we got a motion and a second.
Oh, that's right, we're in discussion.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
One so far.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same? That motion passes unanimously. We'll move on into our executive director items, new business.
Okay, the first item is the approved amendment to the administrative plan. This is a update that we do annually.
Excuse me, Ms. Strickland.
Yes.
I don't want you to get too far involved into this. We didn't send this through the policy committee before submitting this so that the policy committee could review it. Also, if we're in the process of doing this, and I know we've already opened negotiations with the land bank, I believe I have requested that we update our policies for the home buying program as well, but I did not see those in this.
It is in there,
The update to the home buying policy?
yes.
Can you show me where it is? Because I thought I thoroughly reviewed it and I did not see it.
It's under the chapter 15, special introduction of special housing types. The home buyer program is a special housing type, and we changed the policy to permit the use of any special housing types. It's on page 14 of the admin plan update. We provided detailed descriptions of what the policy currently is and the proposed changes. And we even did a one-sentence synopsis of what each of the changes were.
So, let me ask you this. So, right, so we've had a long discussion about when their income makes a change. They can report it within 10 days, but it will not take effect until their recertification, or is that just for Section 8 or?
Actually, Section 8 staff, that was for Section 8. Section 8 staff requested that we adopt the same policy as public housing has and have the change effective at the time it's made, because it's costing them additional work and verifications to do it at the end of the year.
So, but everybody won't have the same end of the year. It would be at their recertification time.
Correct.
that it changes.
Can I
Yes.
something on that real quick?
Yes.
The problem that we're having is, so recertification times comes up. And we have had several voucher holders come up to that recert time. And then literally, they get their packet 2 months prior, okay? So they get their packet for their annuals coming up. Then now they don't have a job. They quit, or they bump down to part-time, or they take a temporary leave of absence so they don't have any income coming in. So then that recert happens, okay, and that's based on a different income amount now. So your voucher pays more and you're not out of pocket that much. And then literally a month later, they turn an interim that now they're back up to full-time hours again. And so what's happening is they're not having to pay anything. But literally a month after their annual, they're making decent money again, you know? And so now that doesn't change until they're recert for another year.
So you're saying some people use this as a hustle game? They
I
won't.
can't believe that.
So, they
It-
won't work close to their recertification,
Is it
Yes,
so
ma'am.
then their, rent won't go up, and then
Yes,
after their
ma'am.
recertification, they
They-
surprisingly
They'll
got their
change,
full-time?
they change jobs.
Okay,
Sometimes it's like literally a temporary leave of absence. There's multiple reasonings that
Okay.
fall behind that, and what's happening is then our Section 8 folks they have to redo the paperwork, then they come back and there's another interim, because we had one of our ladies redid an annual 5 times because the after the fact paperwork kept trickling in. They're spending so much time redoing these things
Okay.
that it's causing a problem.
Okay.
And now, and the hiccup to that is, our people that live in, our residents that are in public housing, if they have a change, they report that within 10 days. If they don't report it within 10 days and you find out after the fact, you go back to the date that it occurred, okay? So with them, if it's a decrease, it takes effect the first of the very next month. If it's an increase, it's not the following month, but the next one. So it gives them time to adjust to that change. And we don't do that for Section 8 people. So it's really not fair that we hold our public housing folks accountable to the
Right.
change in their income, like me or you or Mr. Kitts or, like in real world.
Right,
And our Section 8 folks they don't have that same process
right.
like the rest of it. It's almost like they have these rules over here, but the rules that you or I are folks in public housing, it's different.
Right.
So we're just saying with this makes it fall in line with our public housing. When you have a change, you have to report that just like everybody else, whether it's an increase or a decrease. And then that change will take effect, whether it's a decrease, like I said, the following first of the month, or if it's an increase, a month and a half out. So it gives them time to build up their pay and so
Well,
forth.
that makes sense. That, I never heard it explained like that before. All right, appreciate that.
No
So
problem.
that system is in place right now.
As we were trying to do, yes, sir.
And that's really the only major change in here. The other changes are adding executive orders, adding wording that HUD recommended to ensure families don't receive duplicate subsidy, adding language to ensure HUD regulations are followed concerning debts owed by tenants. So there's no major policy changes. It's just the annual HUD update. We get the model policy,
Once we get from
yeah,
the folks you explained to us last time.
yeah.
In-
So there's no major changes. There's that change. We added the home ownership back in and other housing types. So now those options are available to our shoppers. And we added the HUD required language.
I move that we approve the admin policy changes as presented by staff.
I see no wrong in it. I second that.
Got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the admin plan amendments, seconded by Madam Vice Chair Bailey. Do we have any further discussion?
If, in the future, isn't this one of those things that we should have a workshop for, so we can understand it before it comes out, so we won't miss anything when we come to vote on it?
Generally, that is more than 5 days. I guess that would be, if you're comfortable with it, it's completely up to the board to determine whether or not they've had enough time to review.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays have the same, and I abstain. That motion carries 3 in favor with no nays and 1 abstain.
Abstention.
Abstention. Yeah.
Absolute abstention.
That one.
The next item is the ACOP, which is for public housing. A lot of the same language changes. The only other things we added in there was we did remove, make a recommendation to remove the $5 late fee accumulation after the, I believe, the 6th of the month.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's removing that, it will stick to the the $50 late fee, and then that will be it.
Now this, I would rather have in a workshop so I can go through it and read it, because I see a lot of red in here, and I might have some questions, and I don't want in the future that something happens and it gets said to me, well, you approved it, it's in the A file. So I
But
think.
if you look on the first page where I do the one sentence synopsis, I can run through these real quick, because a lot of them are the same thing, added executive order number.
I don't wanna be rushed into it.
But we have no choice in that. I
But
mean, it won't take me, it'd take me less time than the crime report did.
Well, I see a lot of red through here, and I just don't want to.
Can I have the chance, please, to just go through it and see if anybody else might? Okay. The first one, add executive order number. The next one is added language in reference to a language interpreter service. These are HUD requirements. Added steps to ensure applicants are screened for duplicate subsidy, HUD requirement. Changed the minimum age for background checks from 12 to 17. This was from the background company that asked us to do this. Added HUD language to ensure regulations are allowed concerning debts owed. We did clean up the language in the current policy to make it clearer on bedroom size for children under 6 versus children over 6. There was some staff confusion on that because it kind of read both ways, so we cleaned that language up. Remove language in reference to the $5 late fee. Added language to allow for 48 hours notice for entry for non-emergency inspections. Again, another place we needed to change the minimum age for background checks. Added words as applicable to current policy per recommendation from Nan McKay model policy. Added required language in reference to remote hearings. Cleaned up language on the time requirements for remote hearing. Ensuring accessibility for persons with disabilities, HUD language. Added language clarifying the use of hearsay evidence, again, HUD language. Added HUD language concerning remote hearings. Struck language in reference to the $5 late fee. Added language to keep thermostat on automatic mode in reference to mold and mildew issues. Change notice on failed housekeeping from 40 to 30 days. That's to help with our court cases. Added clarifying language as to what's outdoor furniture. And added some clarifying language to the housekeeping program as far as the lease attachments and how the program will work, and added proposed changes to the maintenance and repair charge list, and that document is presented separately.
Ms. Strickland,
Yes,
is there a time sensitivity to this document?
yes.
In other words,
Not a HUD required time, but for housing authority, it is.
and what is there an inefficiency or a problem for staff to defer this approval until next month?
Yes,
And what is that problem?
because we're trying to keep this on a calendar year cycle to get the notices out so that we can make everything effective for both programs in January.
Yeah, well,
Okay, but,
It just enables the staff to operate more efficiently.
right. I'm gonna ask that staff sacrifice a month of operating more efficiently, and I'll move to defer this item until next month. That gives Ms. Bailey time to read and become satisfied with any other board members who have an issue. Rather than take for the entire board time for a work session, I move to defer it to the November meeting.
I'll entertain a second.
Yeah, but only reason why I would like to have a work session, because when you go in a work session, you have questions and you have answers. And we are not on a time scale to comprehend and understand the changes. And so, I mean, I could read it.
Well, what changes did you have questions about? Cause like I said,
Hang on, first, we still got a motion on the floor. Do we get a second, or does it fail? Because if we get a second, then we can have further discussion.
Correct. Well done.
So I will entertain a second to defer, as Commissioner Kilgore has motioned.
I'm going to second.
Great, I got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to defer till next month for the ACOP amendments, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Do we have any further discussion? Let's go ahead and begin with Ms. Strickland.
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes, for just one moment. I forgot, she's actually trying to write it down. My apologies, I forgot you're actually writing it down, the motions. For just a moment.
okay, I'm just interested in what questions that people have that we could answer.
Well, but Ms. Bailey's, I think, expressed the fact she's not had time to totally provide a list of questions, and she's not prepared to do that. Unless I'm wrong.
That's it.
And hence the motion for deferral. And to your point, you can ask your questions at the board meeting next month, rather than have a work session that takes everybody's time. We can do it when everybody is gathered together for a regular meeting.
Well, we could ask people if they will take their time. They might take your time, but that was the purpose of administering a work session, to have things like this to discuss.
And I guess we're talking past one another because that's what we can do at a board meeting.
But sometimes you used to say we're taking up too much time. You know,
Indeed.
we need to run over, so
Yes.
that's why I'm asking for a work session for this. So I won't take up too much time next month if I have a lot of questions that needs to be asked and answered.
But you're asking for a work session just for you.
Well, there's 4 other people on this board. Did you ask them if they want one too?
I did. If anybody else that thinks they need a work session, speak up. But you're talking about staff time and the entire board and all the people here for a work session just because you have some questions. Those questions can be asked in a regular board meeting.
And we're prepared to answer them today.
I don't know what they are today because I don't read this.
There you go.
Let's sit it out.
Any further discussion?
I got one question for you, Ms. King.
Yes.
Based on the late fees, I heard you say a little language about the late fees. I know it used to be $50 late fee after the 5th. So you moved it to the 6th.
Well, it would be after the 5th. Yeah.
So it's not on the 6th.
Well, we put it on the 6th. We give you until the 5th to pay.
Right.
So it's after the 5th, but that's the 6th.
So that's where it stands right now?
Yes.
Still the same late fee of $50?
Yeah, well, now we have additional $5 per day after a certain time. I don't know
So
what time
that
it is.
accumulates 5 per day.
Right, and that's what we're trying to remove.
Okay, if you remove that, then that would eliminate court. Because that adds up.
Right,
That adds up.
correct,
So when you go to court, that's additional money.
correct.
So if I eliminate the $5, you maybe get some awareness that you can be lenient with you if you do your part, right?
Correct.
So that's the whole idea of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it still will remain after.
It's still gonna remain that now because we didn't get approval.
Okay, that was my question.
Any further discussion?
God bless.
The next
All
item.
in favor of,
Oh, sorry.
all in favor of, the motion to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next item is approved changes to the maintenance and repair charge list. The proposed changes were listed on page 30 of the ACOG update, and then I put a copy of the actual full charge list in here. And these again are based on staff recommendations based on their actual experiences.
I move that we approve the staff recommended changes for the maintenance charges as presented.
I got a motion to approve the maintenance charges. Do I have a second? A motion to approve by Commissioner Kilgore, the maintenance charges, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Do we have any further discussion?
So my only question is this. This is my only question. Now, who decided on these particular proposed changes?
Staff.
Okay. And so the thing about it is, I can't approve because I might have questions about the price of other things on here. You know what I'm saying? Because you have unreported mold. Are there people that really don't report the mold? in
Yes,
their
ma'am.
apartment?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, I know we had COVID. How is inspection going? Is it not still being done or
No, we've
whatever?
inspected 100% of the units in this last year.
Say what now?
We've inspected 100% of the units in the last year.
I thought y'all weren't going into units because of COVID.
Well, then, when some of the restrictions started lifting, we went in.
And so, okay, and so the contractor finds the mold and report it because the tenants aren't reporting, right?
Or maintenance staff or an employee.
Yeah. So is there, you know, there was a thing going around about trash piled up, paying so much if you don't take the trash can in. These are things that came to me that's happening in the communities. So is that in here or is that, so that, what's, okay. So where's the trash can,
It's the page at the very top, it says replace GFI receptacle. Fourth page, and I believe, under grounds.
okay. So you charge them $45 if they don't remove their trash can? Oh, then that's trash. Okay. Empty trash can not taken for.
If that's still like a 24-hour period, to leave the trash can out, say they pick up on Tuesday, if it's spotted on, let's say Wednesday, we'll say,
That's $35.
that's 35. That's when they go into effect. So what we got is a 24-hour period, 24-hour days, right? Okay, are we thinking about maybe changing that policy?
Well, this,
Or
that's the question. Staff only changed what, they thought, I mean, that they thought considered to be a change, but there's a lot more things that could be changed on here. What is that empty trash can not taken for public use for $50? What's that?
If they don't carry the trash can out, and we have to empty it, we have to pay staff to go and empty the trash can because they didn't roll it to the curb.
That's also within 24 hours.
I don't know if they do it within 24 hours, do Yeah.
24.
It's usually longer than that because it takes a few days for us to notice that it's been there for a while, you know what I mean? Could be where somebody had it in the back of their unit, they never brought it out.
So if somebody moves from that unit, that won't help.
Yeah, that'll probably go on the person that moved out, that'll go on their fee.
Move out
So-
of
Their move out inspection fee.
But that'll still apply to the person that was occupying
That's
the
correct.
unit.
The problem is if you don't take them out, and they sit by their back door, then they get bugs and flies and maggots and all kinds of other nasty things, and
And it's not fair to the neighbors.
it's not, and
Yes,
these
I
things
agree.
spread, and so there's a
Right.
responsibility to take your trash to the curb. And you have to think too, our maintenance staff and grounds folks are the ones that are moving these things back and forth. So they're taking time to deal with trash issues, and it takes away from other responsibilities that they have that they're being paid for. I mean, we're basically at that point paying staff to move around trash cans and empty them out.
But my saying is, if you're living in public housing, and sometimes they have issues paying their rent, some of these prices are kind of pricey.
That's why a lot of our residents know to make sure you take your trash out so you can avoid them.
But just like he said, the instance is, like someone has a third shift at work. You come home the next morning, you might be tired, you're not ready to take your trash can in until you wake up and go back out there. And I mean, some of you, if they have an issue paying their rent, this is what adds up for them when they get evicted and when they go to court. Because some of these charges are just really pricey to me. I don't know about anybody else, but I understand about the trash, and I mean, I just don't understand why they don't push the trash out. I mean, it's just, yeah. And so, are these charges based on the retail charge of regular residence charges?
Most of the charges are based on our cost plus labor.
They're much less than
Yes.
what normal maintenance charges would be if you went to an outside service.
Well, okay, well, I guess as we go along and we see if anybody, if I see something else on here, it can be addressed, even though I approve this today in the future? Or is this a one-year thing, that it has to be approved now?
But we try to do things once a year, just so that we can have,
But we weren't told that this was coming up on the agenda.
yes, you were,
When?
we sent out the agenda.
It's
Well,
in the packet.
Well, I didn't get it because my email with mine wasn't the right email. AT&T is not my email.
Well,
It been coming at gmail.com, but for some reason the other day I got my email was AT&T, and so somebody else on the board had sent me the information. Okay. So I know this time next year we have to do this. Okay.
I just have one more question for this speaker.
okay.
Do you think in the future that those prices will decrease?
I didn't hear it.
Do you think that in the near future that those prices will decrease? For instance, I know the cost of living is rising.
Yeah.
I know we changed companies maybe 2 times. We went with the trash companies. We changed over from the green to the blue.
That's the city,
That's the
yeah, the
city.
city does that.
Okay, but I guess what my question is, do you foresee an increase in, any of this, what we're talking about? The prices for late fees on, leaving them out at 24 hours, trash cans and stuff like that. Do you think that the $50 would eventually decrease?
No, because we're voting to approve it.
So that's what we're standing now, right? Okay. Okay. That was my question.
Any further discussion? Those in favor of approving the, maintenance fees, say aye.
Aye.
Nays have the same. Any abstentions? And I am abstaining as well. So you have 2 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 abstaining.
Okay, next is request to submit approved request to submit a request to HUD to increase our HPC payment standard from 110% of FMR to 120. We have gone up to 110, and we can do that without HUD approval, but we would like to request HUD approval to go to 120, and this will give our voucher holders, shoppers, some additional options we have for rent because of the rent are being so high right now.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. We just took a vote that was 2 for, 0 against, and 2 abstentions. Is that correct?
2 for, 0 against, 2 abstentions.
And in the chair's view, does that mean that the item was approved?
That's not. The motion failed, that's it.
Oh,
It'll have to be brought back at another time. So again, we move on to the FMR.
May I ask for an explanation as to the reason for extension?
That was the way I voted.
So
Madam Vice Chair
you're going to
Bailey,
decline to
do you
explain
have
why?
Do you have any explanation of why you voted your way?
I said that earlier, a few minutes ago, when I compared this to what was shown to us and not knowing ahead of time that this was gonna happen, and I have questions about the other prices, and he already explained that. But that was my vote also.
And does staff have the correct email address for Ms. Bailey?
As far as we knew, we did.
And did it go to Gmail or to an AT&T address?
No, it isn't, no, it's not.
No, it's the one that it went to.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So I just need to get your correct email.
The front of it is still the same, but the back is at gmail.com,
Sure.
and not AT&T.
Yes,
I've been
ma'am.
getting it for a year now. I've been getting the Gmail for a year now. I don't know what happens. Why
I
they
think
get
your
to-
email is from 2 different addresses, and one of them, the different one probably just got picked up. You get emails from 2 different addresses.
Is that Gmail?
Gmail, yeah. I don't even use AT&T.
Yes, ma'am.
So the material is sent out in advance and you're not capable of approving or voting no at this point, having seen it for a week?
I don't understand your questioning because we already voted what we voted and you're trying to ask us why we voted that way and what's the issue. Let's move on.
The issue is a point of order because we were moving on, and I thought it was inappropriate because, in my judgment, it had not been approved, and the chairman confirmed that.
You thought, and it was in your judgment, but it has been voted on by the board in favor. We are moving on
Why did you not vote for it though?
because I abstained.
But why?
To make this more clear, I abstained. Move on. Bring it back to us.
Duly
We'll
noted.
review again.
Duly noted.
We'll review again. Bring it back to us again. Now, we're moving on to the FMR. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Going from the 110 to 120?
Yes.
Didn't we just vote on this last month?
No.
Well, we did approve it in our minutes.
We need this specific.
It says, in our minutes, it says that we just approved. The motion was made by Hobson, seconded by Gary Cook, to approve payment standards of 110 of AMR, FMR, as allowed by HUD. Motion carried unanimously.
Yes, we're asking to go to 120
Why are we going to 120? What changed in
because
30 days?
110 is not enough, and we need HUD approval to go to 120. 110 is all we can do without HUD approval.
So
We need board approval to go HUD to go higher.
We approved for 110,
Correct.
but we should have approved for 120 at the last meeting?
No, we continued doing business from the last meeting to this
Mhm.
meeting, and with new information, we now know that we need to get board approval to go to 120, and we have to submit that board approval to HUD for them to consider it. So
What's the
that's
new
why we're
information?
requesting it at this meeting,
What's the new information?
that we need board approval, and they will.
What's the new information for bringing us from 110 to 120? What's the new information that you received?
That we can go to 120 if we get board approval, if the 110 is not gonna be enough, because we have new payment standards, we have new FMRs, new payment standards, we know what rents are, we know it's still not enough, and so we need to go to this additional step.
So will this help with your your Christmas bonus?
That's not the question that she's asking.
Yeah, but
Hey,
I'm asking, cause
can I
she's
say
saying,
something?
Yes.
That's not the
Okay.
question I asked.
I know it doesn't.
okay.
One of the things we've noticed over the last couple weeks is with when we send out annual packets and so forth, we're getting information from some of our voucher holders' properties that are saying rent's going up $300 and $400 a unit. So because of where their vouchers are at right now, they're not gonna qualify for their renewal because the rent has jumped too much and these places are not budging. So the only way to keep our voucher holders housed in those units is to get them more in line with what the expense is to rent them on a regular basis now. So because we're considered, when they take our FMR into account, they're taking things like Brantley County and McIntosh, and they're not the same as Glenn County. There's a big disparity between the rents there and here. However, they're taken into account when they do our FMR, when they calculate it. So this will enable us to actually have our folks' voucher meet what the rent is right now, what has been increased over the last couple weeks.
In other words, what you're saying is this would be beneficial to our residents
Yes.
and tenants.
Yes. Otherwise, their vouchers are not going to get them anything in Glenn County.
So these are new voucher holders?
No, they're existing ones, but when they're coming up for their renewals,
Mhm.
and so their properties are saying, oh, their lease is coming up, they need to be renewed, we're jumping the rent literally $300 and $400. This is Eagles Point.
So aren't they still, but even though they're already in there and the rent jumps up, they still have to go by their income that they're living in now. They're not gonna put them out if they can't afford
If
that
their
rent.
voucher does not, if the voucher doesn't meet what their rent is, absolutely they will. They will not renew their lease and they'll have to find another place to use their voucher.
How many places we have in Eagles Point?
A lot. And it's not just Eagles Point, our ladies are getting notices left and right that rents are increasing daily, they get multiple ones. And the only way to fix that is to say the percentage of the FMR right now is, because it's based on some other areas outside of Glenn County that's pulling that figure down. The only way to help our folks that live in our community that hold these vouchers is to ask for them to increase that so it gets a little bit more in line with what property owners are asking for.
Can I ask this question? On the other end of the spectrum here in Glenn County, what would be pushing that number up?
It's just the way the market is right now. Yeah, I mean, but you can't foresee the future on what that market's gonna look like, when it's going to crash and burn, or if it's just gonna median and stay flat going forward.
Property owners have lost a lot of money
Mhm.
over the last year and a half, 2 years. And so, they're raising their rents.
Trying to recoup.
And so, it's economic forces, what the market will bear.
And currently, we only have about 700 of our 750 vouchers leased up. And although Jamie was just talking about current voucher holders.
Louder, please.
She was just talking about current voucher holders, but I
That's
do
not
know.
much louder.
It's not?
Okay.
I know, I can't remember what bedroom size, but I know there's one particular bedroom size that people have a hard time finding something they can afford in with their voucher. But if we increase this, this will help, not just existing people, it will help new people coming in also.
Do we have an idea if HUD, because we're gonna have to ask permission from HUD to be able to raise it that high, am I correct?
Correct.
And do we have an idea of what their inclination may or may not be?
I think they will do it.
As long as you can show proof, you have to do a comparison. So the way that I would think we would be able to do it was to be able to show the disparity between the rents in Glenn County compared to the outside counties that they're contributing to when they calculate our FMR.
Within that, will you also include the, because we're talking Glenn County, what's the name of the place out there, the federal place?
Fleeting.
That's the place. And they're how much they're giving out their vouchers for, their rentals and such and so forth, to see if that's skewing our data at all?
From my understanding, when I just looked at it this past week, because I was working on another project, but it kind of shows you like you have 3 areas or 4 areas for comps. So you say this is where you're at, and the comp would be is you would pull the average for like Glenn County, McIntosh, Brantley, so they can see that there's a huge difference between ours and the other 2. And then it breaks it down to everything, so they see it all the way from what a rent or a mortgage would be, down to utilities, down to if you've got gas or electric or whatever, and it breaks it all the way down through. It's a worksheet that they give you to fill it out.
For us to be considered the poorest, one of the poorest cities in Georgia, they show it was minimum wage.
I can't hear you, what you said?
That's crazy.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request to increase HCV payment standard from 110% of FMR to 120%.
I got a motion, do I get a second? Got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the raising of the FMR from 110 to 120%, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion? My concern is that, and I understand the information that we're working with, because again, we went through this process last month to get us through to that 110%. We've now got new information this month that we're supposed to utilize to move to 120%. And I know this is information that will be constantly changing and coming in and out of the COVID period that we've been in. This is going to change dramatically. My concern, or I should say additionally, my concern is, are we going to have to redo this again next month potentially?
Right.
And or, I don't want us to be, as a housing authority, artificially inflating the rental market here in the county of Glenwood, or I should say our Brunswick jurisdiction.
That's right.
I understand that they're their recertification periods will be coming up available. It's always been, in my opinion, that the federal place out there, that they're a little high in their vouchers, and that skews the data for the remainder of Glenn County. And we should look very closely into that as we propose that to HUD and hope if this passes, and making sure that HUD understands that data, along with our Brantley and the other parts of our MSA, does not interfere with what we have here.
My understanding is we're reacting to the fair market rental, not setting it. The market forces that in order for us to benefit our renters, that they can stay current with the market conditions and hopefully stay in the same place. So I don't think we're driving rent prices up, we're reacting to it, is my understanding.
That's correct. We get the FMRs from HUD and everything's built around that.
But what we got from them still didn't say that we needed to go to 120. Is that correct?
They just give you the standard, like they give you the fair market value.
Right.
They don't, you know, based on all these areas, if you wanted adjusted to that, because you're noticing that there's a significant difference between one area and the others, that they give you the option to do that if you find that your area is succumbing to those circumstances. But obviously that doesn't apply to every area, so they don't just throw it out there for everybody, but it gives you the option if you're falling into that circumstance to do so. I just worry because there's a significant amount of voucher holders that are going to lose their place, and there's not another place for them to find in town. And so I'd hate to have a family not be able to use their voucher, or for their voucher to not be used and then they lose it, and then the process requires that they start all over because of something that they couldn't control.
Right.
So, like Chairman Kidd said, because we all know that Social Security is gonna go up in January and other things gonna come out in January, and they might be taking account of the tax credits that's going on, which is supposed to end in December. I don't know what's going on to the next year. But as Chairman Kidd said, I'm not going to agree on this proposal. I wanna see if it's gonna change again within a couple of months, and just see how it works out. Because like you said, you have a scale between 110 and 120. Y'all didn't choose 115, you didn't choose 110, you choose the max. So I'm going not to
Well,
stand by.
I think that the max is 130, isn't it?
No.
The max is 120?
And if it changes, it's not going down, it will go up. But you can vote as you wish, vote your conscience.
And again, we're already at 100% of what HUD already stated for our area, for our fair market rental agreement, which we just decided again last month. But this new information, we should jump on. This is us trying to be a little proactive.
This is us being able to take care of the folks that are up for renewal right now, and making sure they have a home come January 1.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's just see what the HUD actually says. I'll vote aye as well. Those opposed have the same,
I oppose.
so it passes with 3 in favor, 1 opposed.
The next item is to approve the calendar for 2022. And actually, I put a copy of our personnel policy in there with a recommended change, because the personnel policy kind of contradicts itself about the annual approval process, and I'm just trying to streamline the board meetings so that we can be more efficient with them. So I'm asking for you to approve the calendar for this fiscal year and then approve the change to the personnel policy so that we don't have to get this approved every year, because nothing changes on it.
I move that we approve the proposed calendar year 2022 as presented by staff. Come on, folks, it's 11 o'clock. I mean, we don't need to do this all day.
Got a motion. Does anyone want a second?
A second.
Got a motion to approve the calendar by Commissioner Kilgore, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any discussion? So, just to be clear, Commissioner Kilgore, it was just the calendar, or did you include the amendments to the personnel policy?
Just the calendar.
Just the calendar, okay. All in favor of approving the calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, have the same. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next item is to consider the change to the personnel policy to take out the annual approval process and just approve if there are any changes.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore, does anyone second?
A second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the changes to the personnel policy. Seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion?
I will add that I thought it would be more clear to do it separately. And so I thought I was doing it as a matter of efficiency, but having approved the calendar by default, we now must approve the policy change because we've already approved the calendar. So, but we should vote on it.
Definitely should vote on it. Any further discussion? Well, I'm just gonna say that, it's a simple vote. I think that we should always be able to vote on it. I like being able to, understand that my, the employees have their holiday calendar and I can put this thing there, put it on my refrigerator and just make sure that I can abide by it. So I like being able to have that simple approval. Yes, I do. So that's my discussion. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of approving the personnel policy, and this portion here will be deleted so that we will no longer have to have this vote. That's the approval we're looking for. So that was again by Commissioner Kilgore, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed have the same. I say nay. So that passes 3-1.
Okay, the next item is approve employee Christmas bonuses. This was actually included in the budget that was approved in May. We just didn't submit the details at that time. And so we want to change this process too, to do that as one approval process as well.
Does everybody ever deny a staff bonus?
No. The staff works very hard.
Indeed they do. This is just a Christmas bonus.
Christmas bonus.
It's not annual or anything of that nature. It's just a Christmas bonus.
correct.
My motion.
I got a motion by Commissioner Dobson
Second.
to approve, seconded by Commissioner Kilgore. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, ooh.
We have some discussion. Commissioner Bailey? Item Vice Chair Bailey?
I'm looking. I'm looking. So the Christmas bonus is calculated by the years, the years served.
A percentage of salary times, or by your service. It just looks at the first year and then it goes by the salary, and this is the same structure we've used for the last decade.
Longer than that?
Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the Christmas bonus, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays have the same. Motion passes unanimously.
Write-off tennis accounts receivable classified as uncollectible as of September 30th, 2021.
My motion.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Dobson and a second by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the write-offs for accounts receivable right classified as accounts uncollectible as of September 30th, 2021. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed have the same.
The last item I have is we had our audit field work last week. When the auditors first got here, they were a little concerned because we did have a large staff turnover this year. But after the week, they were very complimentary of the new staff we have in place and how they caught on very well and were able to answer all questions and provide all documentation that was requested. So it doesn't appear at this time we're gonna have any findings or management letter or anything. So I would like to say well job to all the staff and all the hard work that was done last week. That's all I have.
I'd like to also say well done to all the staff. You guys worked very hard on this so far, and I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you for your feedback.
Better wait till you see the opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any reports of committees? Well, this is commission item, so if there's something we can discuss. This is the commissioners' items. Just want to ask a question. Well, Madam Vice Chair just wants to ask a question.
Has there been any update on the HUD bash vouchers? No? Do you know when the deadline or the turnaround, maybe they hear something maybe?
It's up to HUD. They don't have a specific deadline. They'll let us know when they let us know.
So the letter of support and, other things returned in timely? For the
Absolutely.
deadline? All right. That was mine.
Any other commissioners' items? Let's see, all we have left is items mailed in board packet each month, as proposed by the Vice Chair. So the work order report. Any questions about the work order report?
Is there any significant work order?
logo stop?
I have a question. In the work order report, this doesn't account for their full hours, right? For the month, it's just, these are specific call-ins that people made, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the time will be spent doing their normal everyday duties.
I have a question. When we were talking about the maintenance fees, and you said it might be a couple of days before somebody will recognize that they didn't take out their trash or anything like that, how many, wasn't it said, to my understanding, that there's 2 maintenance people for each community?
There's only one now. We lost one of our staff members.
That's on grounds, but
Yeah, that's on the
regular
grounds.
maintenance.
Regular maintenance is 2 per development, 2 per annum.
Okay, so groundskeeper, maintenance, 2
Different.
different people.
Yes, ma'am.
Groundskeeper should be the one keeping up with if the trash is
Trash
out.
and
So how many is on each community?
we have one for 3 amps. Now, we used to have 2. We've been interviewing. We had one good applicant and we called him back and he never called us back. So now we're in the process of doing more applications or interviews.
So it's one for all 6 communities? Is that how you, is that sufficient? I don't think it's sufficient.
Well, that's
No,
why.
we don't either. That's why we're trying to hire.
That's why we're
So
we're
how many are you trying to hire for each community? At least 2?
yes, ma'am. No, not per community. We're only budgeted for
For 2 total.
2 total.
So one will have 3 each?
No, they'll both usually work together and they'll go from development to development. The only, like if there's large items, because we get large items every day, couches, I mean, all kinds of stuff. Now that we have one person, we'll have our maintenance mechanic help that one person with large items. But most of the time it's small items, cups, trash, things like that.
Okay.
Move that we adjourn?
Any legal matters that we can take care of? Nope. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Wait, we still have to have we have another meeting here after?
Yeah, but we have to adjourn this one first.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the regular housing authority.
I second that motion.
God
Here
bless
we
you.
go. Got a motion by Commissioner
Well, is today
Kilgore,
Monday or is
seconded
it
by
It's gonna be Thursday real quick.
Bailey, adjourn.
We have delayed reactions this morning.
Aye.
That one passes unanimously. All right, so moving on to the Brunswick Gordon Armstrong Incorporated meeting. Old business, approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 14, 2021.
Move that we approve the minutes for, Gordon Armstrong for July, 2020.
Second that motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore, seconded by Madam Vice Chair Bailey. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, update, so we're still working on trying to get things taken care of over there, so. We have some mold issues and stuff like that, but we're trying to work with them to get that taken care of. We got a contractor in there and it's mold everywhere. Not there, just everywhere.
This is a Whisper Notes project. And the roofing, we're
Still working on it.
you said we have some mold issues we have to take care of with it?
They're working on them.
The management of
Yeah.
Whisper Notes is working on it.
Yeah. But that's all I have.
Let's adjourn.
Any further discussion on it? Other than that,
Second.
got a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Kilgore, seconded by Madam Vice Chair Bailey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Did a,
When are you-
did a newsletter come out?